Happy Sunday, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Hart, and today I'll be breaking down this four-game NBA playoff slate. It starts pretty soon, like an hour and a half, so I'm gonna make this pretty quick. Just go quickly over who are the best guys to target, the best early the core plays, and kind of game by game breakdown. All the good stuff in this video. So make sure to hit that like button and subscribe, and let's get into this breakdown. So starting off with this four-game slate, we're gonna look at two Cleveland and the Knicks. Just a little initial thoughts. I do think most people will overlook this first game just because of the poor game environment, how slow and gross and just slow pace it's going to be. A lot of people are going to want to get to the other three games, which makes sense. But on a four-game slate, especially in the playoffs, I mean, you really can't overlook the first game. You can definitely get some really low-owned pieces from that game tonight. So we'll be talking through, who I would target. Obviously, it's probably going to be the stars, and that's about it. But still, most people are going to tend to take pieces from the last three games, not even get to this first game. And that could definitely be a mistake night because I do think a few of these guys in this first game will go off. So there's a lot to like here. So on the Cleveland side, nothing really changes. It's still the main four guys. They all look great. It's just, no one can hit a shot, especially Darius Garland, 4 of 21 after his big performance there. So he lost, a ton of minutes. He lost about like half a quarter of minutes. Donovan Mitchell lost a few minutes. Mobley lost, was it like 4 or 5 minutes as well? Same thing with Allen. He lost a few minutes. So it's one of those things. I think all three, four of them look great. If I had to get to one or two of them, it'd probably be Garland and Mobley just because of the price tags and their upside. But I think all four still look fantastic. Levert is a decent, option there in the mid range, 5,100. His price is coming up. He's been playing big minutes, but I still prefer getting to the four main guys. Seti and Isaac Okoro and Danny Green, I guess, are all absolute dart throws, but I don't think there's a need. I think Cleveland's just gonna, really look to their starters tonight to get back on track here for this game. On the next side here, Randall comes in at a very cheap price tag after a very bad performance there. 3 of 15, 2 of 10 from three, 27 and a half fancy points. As you can see, he has not been doing well in this series. I expect a bounce back spot here for Randall one of these games. I know, Cleveland's very good at defense and they're a pretty tough defensive team, but we know Randall has huge upside. So he's one of those lower owned pieces that could have huge game. Brunson's usually, he's not decently popular, but he's kind of close to that. But yeah, he's been great for them. I mean, 7,600. It's not like he's really popping off fantasy point wise, but just overall game wise, he's been winning them games. He's been doing great. So I think him and Randall look great. Barrett's always that mid range option. It's like you feel gross landing on him, but as we saw last game, 36 that could line him in the optimal lineup for tonight. So it's one of those things where it's like he has that upside there for to be in the optimal lineup. If you want to land on him, he'll be very low owned. Josh Hart, kind of the same upside there. He could definitely land in an optimal lineup. He's a guy who can do a little bit of everything. Mitchell Robinson, same thing. It's just, all three of these guys are super risky. More often than not, they will fail you, but they do have that upside. So it's like, if you want some of those pieces, that's what they offer. Quickly, more of an okay play, even riskier than the three guys I just mentioned, but he still has some upside. Grimes is questionable. If he's out, it'll be interesting to see who they start over him. If it's like Josh Hart or Quickly, I would assume it'd probably be Josh Hart. I'd like Josh Hart a good amount. And then probably topping off the bench to get a few more minutes. But not much would change off the bench. Hartenstein would probably still be a very solid value play there if you want to go him over Mitchell Robinson. But yeah, that's about it. It's really just kind of the main two for me. Depending on the Grimes situation, it might be Josh Hart as well. Moving on to Sacramento and Golden State. Once again, I do really like Sabonis there, 8,900. Price really hasn't moved. It's actually coming down. He just really hasn't flashed the upside yet. He hasn't had like a monster game. I think it's coming to one of these games, so I do really like Sabonis there. Fox is a very solid play as well. He's been fantastic. 3 straight games at 50 or more fantasy points. I'm expecting, kind of Sabonis and these other guys to step up, but Fox has been unreal. So they both look fantastic. Now the wings, it's one of those situations where, as I mentioned every slate, it really just comes down to who you think's gonna, be playing well because they'll bench whoever is not. So Harrison Barnes out of the group probably has the lowest floor and lowest ceiling, but he's probably the safest in terms of minutes just because he's a veteran. So if you want to land on him, sure, I don't care. But he's probably my least favorite option. Herder, more of the shooter. Just kind of been limited by fouls the past 2 games. Otherwise, he probably would have had very solid games. So I still really like him. He's looking solid. Malik Monk, obviously, we know what he's been doing. little bit of a letdown that last game, 1-9, 25 minutes. We know he has that downside there. So he's kind of scoring dependent, but we know the upside with him. Trey Lyles is still too pricey for me to get to. Same thing with Alex Len. They priced him up because Sabonis potentially missing. He obviously didn't miss, and they're still priced up way too much for me. Keegan Murray, played 22 minutes, so his minutes did go up. Still not playing well, foul trouble. So he's a very, very risky option, but he's one of those lower owned cheap value plays that could easily go off for 25 plus fantasy points, as we can see. So if he's hitting the shots, he could stay in the game and he can get his normal extended run, and he'd be a great option at 4,200. So I do have some interest in him. David Mitchell's minutes did come down a bit, so he's just a very risky dart throw. And that's it. It's really just going to be probably Sabonis for me. Maybe taking a shot on one of these wings, which would probably be Herter, and then maybe looking to Murray. On the Golden State side here, Steph 9,800. I think he looks fantastic every night. I mean, it's Steph Curry. Clay looks very solid at 7,200. Wiggins price came up to 6,700. 34 minutes, 35 fantasy points. And then Draymond Green is back. I do like him for a bounce back spot here tonight against Sacramento. I think he's going to come out, be very focused, really try to win this game for them. So I do like him a good amount. Pool 6K off the bench. There's no interest for me. They did start him last game, but now with Green back off the bench, I don't like Pool. Looney, a fine option. His minutes will probably go down to like mid 20s, maybe about 30. But Draymond Green is back, so it does hurt his upside a little bit in terms of just like assists and rebounding, but he still has a decent ceiling. DiVincenzo, more of an okay play. I think at this price tag, I'd rather take a shot on a guy like Keegan Murray than DiVincenzo. Gary Payton is questionable if he plays. I think he's a decent option as well. It's just one of those things, a lot of people are going to go to these guys. Makes sense. They're in a great gaming spot, but Keegan Murray, his role performs, and he does what he was supposed to do. He can come at a very low ownership and have the same ceiling as a DiVincenzo or Kaminga, or excuse me, DiVincenzo or Payton. So definitely keep that in mind. Kaminga, no, don't think there's a need to get to him. So yeah, it's just one of those things. I really like these starting, main 4/5 guys of Steph, Clay, Wiggins, Green, and probably Looney. And that's really it. You could definitely take a shot on these lower owned guys. They'll get the minutes mid to high 20s for DiVincenzo, Gary Payton. But right now, I just like the main pieces. Moving on to Boston and Atlanta. On the Boston side here, I like a bounce back spot for Jaylen Brown. He really struggled. As you can see, the past two games, he's really struggled. Had huge foul trouble that last game. So I'm expecting a bounce back spot for Jaylen Brown. Really, really like him. Jason Tatum, I think it looks like a great play. White, Smart, Horford, Brogdon, all great plays in mid range. It really comes down to if Smart's in or out. If he's in, I still like him. I still like White. I still like Brogdon. If he's out, I'm assuming they'll start. It'll be interesting to see who they start because I do think they like Brogdon off the bench. I don't think that will change. It'll make White a little bit more viable. Probably give him a few more minutes. They'll probably maybe start Hauser or like Grant Williams, which would make them viable, value plays. Brogdon would look very good. I still like taking a shot on Robert Williams if you're risky like that. So a lot to like here on the Boston side. On the Atlanta side, still very cheap price tags for these guys. Trey Young had a huge game there, 58 fantasy points. So it's like he's firmly in play there, 8,300. DeJounte Murray has been great the past 4 games or 3 games. So I think I still prefer getting to Trey, just because he'll probably be lower owned than DeJounte, but they both have been good. Capella, hard to trust there. His minutes have just been all over the place. I mean, we know he has the upside, but it's like, can he get the minutes? Bogdan was on fire that first half, did nothing in the second half. So I mean, we know he's upside. It's just what happens with minutes, right? Like, I don't know. I mean, these guys, you're gonna land on all of them. Okongwu, decent value play there. Collins, his price is still very cheap. Johnson does get some minutes, so it's just like he can be a dart throw. But yeah, it's right now. It's really just the top two guys for me on Atlanta, and then moving on to this last game here, Denver versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. Jokic, I think he looks fantastic. Had a triple double. Really hasn't flashed a huge game yet in the first 3 games. They've just been winning, obviously, but I think we can probably expect a huge game here from him. I expect this game to be very high scoring, super close. I really think Jokic has a monster game tonight. So I really love Jokic. Murray's been fantastic, as you can see, 4 straight games of pretty much 45 or more fantasy points. And then these mid-range guys, as I always talk about, they have upside. It's just like it's kind of a dart throw of like when you think it's going to happen. Like 40 minutes, 10 to 17, 45 fantasy points from MPJ, more of an outlier. I mean, he has that upside, but it's just kind of throwing darts at a dartboard. So it's hard to trust that. And then I guess you can land on Bruce Brown, KCP, but really it's just the main two guys for me on the Denver side. On the Minnesota side, it's kind of the same thing. It's more of just Anthony Edwards, Carl Towns. They both look great. Rudy Gobert will be a very contrarian option mid range. Mike Conley, Anderson, Walker, Prince, all fine plays. You know, you got the value plays of NAW and Prince. You got the mid range guys of Conley and Anderson. But really, right now, I just think it's the main two guys to target, and that's it. So that's the quick breakdown for today, guys. I'm sorry. I keep forgetting these games start very, very early. So I haven't been able to get these videos out as early as I want. But yeah, right now, really like Brown as a bounce back spot. Jokic looks great. I like Draymond Green in a bounce back spot as well. We'll move him here to the power forward spot to kind of fix this lineup build. In terms of the guards, my favorite guard right now would probably be. Let's take a look real quick. Sorry, we'll get to the guards. I like Steph, but I don't. It would be tough to fit him in this lineup if we're going to Jokic. I like one of the Cleveland guards in a bounce back spot. But I think I might build around the fact that maybe Smart is out. So I think right now I'm going to throw in Brogdon. He's been playing great off the bench there, so I do like him. We'll throw him in there at the guard spot, right there, 5,300. It leaves us with 5K left over to spill to fill four spots. But yeah, that's kind of the early look breakdown core plays. So hope you guys have a great night. I know these games are starting a little bit over an hour, so stay tuned for tomorrow when we're back on schedule for the next couple games of the playoffs. So thank you guys for tuning in. Hit that like button. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.